And we're live. I'm going to say it more times every time, maybe. This is another episode of Angular Unfiltered, where we talk about all things Angular, some things unscripted, and I guess all things unscripted. In this case, let me send out the tweet real quick to let people know to tune in now. You've seen me around, Brandon T. Roberts on Twitter, and I have a couple of special guests with me today. So I'll let you, everyone, I'm going to say up front that everyone probably knows who you are already, but you can go ahead and introduce yourselves. Stephen, why don't you go first?
Sure. So I'm Stephen Fluin. I am in developer relations on the Angular team. I've been on the Angular team for 4.5 years now. And before that, I was a GDG Google developer group organizer and worked at companies like Trello and did consulting for a long time. But I am now just here to make community successful.
I'm Jules. Jules Kremer. I am the engineering manager on Angular or web frameworks at Google. I am not going to give you my history because I'm got a lot longer one. But I've been at Google. I'm closing in on a decade. Just in a couple more months, it'll be 10 years. Done a few things at Google. This is my second time on the Angular team. The first time I was on the Angular team, I was actually Stephen.
Okay.
And this time I'm actually in a different capacity as the Eng manager.
Cool. I like to think of it as I'm trying to be Jules more so.
Okay, that's interesting. But yeah, like I said, thank you both of you for coming on. A lot of people have been talking in and around the Angular community lately, and a lot of things I guess been talked about on social media. People have written blog posts about where Angular is. So I think it's a good opportunity to at least reach out to the community and kind of hear what questions that maybe people have asked or have asked or would like to ask again. So I think it's a good space for that. Okay, I guess just getting right to it, like like I said, blog posts, people tweet things all the time about like the Angular team, or not the Angular team, the Angular project. What, I guess, does the Angular team have a specific policy on social media engagement, whether it be positive or negative, for the most part?
Do we have a policy on social media engagement?
Yeah, for the most part, when people say blog posts or things like have blog posts about the status of Angular, or where Angular is, or where Angular is going, is that still just like a kind of an individual thing? Like, how do you handle community relations, I guess, in that way, and even if they're negative?
I'll try and answer this. I'll first say we don't have anything formal. I think that we're a relatively small team and we try and do good things. If you look at our blog, for example, we do have some policies there. So every blog post that we do has to be useful for the community. And so we don't do things like case studies. We don't talk about our team too much on our blog, those sorts of things, because we're trying to make it about the community and more so about us. When it comes to our Twitter account being active, you'll notice we're not as active as I think we want to be. I think on the last 2 or 3 years, we've averaged 1 tweet a month.
Okay.
Maybe. And so that is not one of our primary ways that we try and reach out to the world. And in general, when there are people that are either critical of us or trying to ask us questions, that's not something that we've historically engaged on the Angular Twitter account.
Okay, so I guess you prefer to handle those as one-on-one conversations, just because Twitter may not be the best place to hash out those conversations?
Yeah, I mean, so I'll say, yeah, Twitter's definitely can be very unhealthy, right? Like the context and the intent of a message oftentimes doesn't come through, and oftentimes the more polarizing a message is, the stronger it comes through. I also think and again, I'm just kind of speaking broadly and openly here. Oftentimes, if we tried responding to criticisms on Twitter, for example, we wouldn't actually be helping, right? We wouldn't be helping any of the people that are reading those threads. We could be coming across as minimizing the things people are saying, even when there's whether they're true or not true. Like we don't want to go out and try and like correct what everyone's saying. That's not part of what we do.
Okay. But I'm just gonna throw this out there. If you could talk about photos all day long and correct people on those, right? Talk about who takes photos, because I see a lot of camera equipment behind you.
But like even there, so I'll just talk for a second. Correcting people is a weird thing.
Okay, like, maybe not correcting isn't the right term. Yeah.
I could share my passions, what I care about. I mean, I think I'm nowhere near. I'm not good at Twitter. I don't do it enough, much like the Angular account. But like anytime. Yeah, I mean, my most successful content, if you just look at like my YouTube channel, Twitter, is when I can do something valuable for someone. Mm-hmm. That's when I've experienced personal success.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I agree. Like I said, I agree. I think I tend to lean towards like the positive things on Twitter and not try to get into the mudslinging, as they say, or those other conversations that kind of derail what Angular is all about, right? Angular, to me, Angular is about like community and trying to make sure that people are in a good place or feel like they're in a good place. But like I said, I guess the other side of it is some people don't think that the Angular team is saying enough about where Angular is, because we've gone through, I guess I say we as the community have gone through like a big change with Ivy, and Ivy's is here. A lot of excitement has been drawn up about Ivy and where it was going to go. So how's the reception of Ivy been from people you've talked to and other areas, I guess, of the community?
Yeah, I talked to a lot of different people about Ivy, and I'll say there's a few different perspectives. Mm-hmm. If you ask the average Angular developer out there, I don't think they care. For them, the version 9 update was a no-op. They just did it and stayed up to date, and they saw some like little minor bundle size and performance benefits, and they barely even needed to know Ivy existed. For people that are passionate and care deeply about the technology behind Angular and the future of Angular, I think they were really excited about Ivy. Like I've seen people already doing dynamic components. I've seen people already starting to do kind of really, really interesting things. And then if you look at, I think our team even has a different perspective where Ivy was, I think, much harder than we thought it would be. It took much longer than we thought it would be. And so we've needed to kind of take a step back and as part of some of the things we're doing on the team, figure out, okay, what is our vision? What is our mission? What is our purpose? And
so maybe I could jump in on how Ivy was a huge milestone, at least in terms of what my role is and what I've been doing on Angular. So most of you who knew me before knew me in the capacity where I was Stephen. And in my new capacity, I joined late last year. I know that I tweeted about it in the middle of summer, but I had actually taken all of last summer off to say goodbye to my children who were leaving me for empty nest. And I actually didn't start back on Angular until October. And so my leadership philosophy is that you listen first. I remember my very first leadership training at Google, my two favorite Googlers, I think one of them is now a Zoogler, but the other one's still here, gave a presentation together about how you become an effective leader in a new leadership position. And the thing that I heard from that and that I've always embodied is that to become a leader, you first have to listen and be the note taker, right? So you take notes, you listen, then you begin asking questions while you're still taking notes. And by listening and hearing and observing before you take action is how you start to embody leadership. So since October, I've been listening and observing. I've been talking, I've been hearing, and I've made plans during that time in my head, right? But Ivy was a milestone because when I rejoined in October, Ivy was still close to completion, and it would have been disruptive to the engineering team to make any process or big, large-scale changes at the time in which we were still trying to get Ivy out. So for me, I took that opportunity to really hear and to think of it as a journey. And so Right when we finished Ivy, you'll know that the big pandemic hit. And so at that point, right, it's been a journey to move not only the Angular team, but a whole company to remote work. But we've successfully done it. Actually, the Angular team already had a very distributed team, so it was kind of easier for the Angular team. But we do work with cross-functional teams who are all trying to figure out the new way of working in this remote model, right? So since October, I've been listening, observing, hearing, talking, and I've been making plans. I have a strategy, and we're starting to execute on those plans now that Ivy is done. I categorize them in 3 areas. One is around team health, one is around community health, and then the other is sort of just like, what is this product we're trying to build, right? I'm going to let Stephen talk about the community programs that DevRel is supporting for bringing us closer and hearing more from the community and having more perspective in the community. And I'll talk just a minute about the category of team health. So we've been doing a lot of things. The first thing that I did was separate or bring in new engineering management. And that engineering management is specifically focused on how do we build scalable team processes, right? What is our team health situation and what do we need to do to bring people more together to collaborate? And career management, where do people, engineers on the Angular team want to go in their career and how do we support them to get there? We've been working for months on a new project model and a prioritization model that goes along with that. So that I think it's the next version of Angular, version 11, will be the first one under this new model of prioritization. As with everything I do, my whole strategy is always going to be start small so that you can see where you need to be more flexible or to improve whatever the processes is that you're trying to implement, right? So we'll start small here. We'll do this within our team. But this model is also the groundwork for addressing a common community concern in that we're not being able to take more contributions from the open source community. And so we created a model where the community projects can get prioritized alongside other projects that come from wherever various stakeholders we have on Angular. But like I said, I'd like the team to get used to this new model and the new process. Is the first time we're doing it. It's a very large change effort for the Google team. And then we'll start to expand the scope of that, right? So that's where I am in terms of engineering management and trying to create a new way of modeling that will support community effort in the long run. And I'll let Stephen talk about the community programs that we're working on as well.
Yeah, I had a quick question. When you mention team health, you just mean like the day-to-day, excuse me, the day-to-day work, or the health of the team after, I guess, the processes that have been Ivy? I guess, what do you?
All of it, right? So we hold one-on-ones, myself and the engineering. I'm not actually the direct engineering manager for Angular. I'm the manager. But myself and her, we 2 women. It's Jen. She's not active in the open source community, but that's okay. She doesn't need to be. We hold one-on-ones with the team. We figure out where each person sits from a work-life balance perspective, from a career perspective, what they see as part of the Angular team and the type of team they want to be a part of. And then we try to affect change where we need to, whether that's communication processes, whether it's work-life balance, whether it's what projects they're working on, or how we map those to their career.
And how does that team health translate into like project health? You talked about, I guess I'm just looking at it from the outside. You talked about new group, and I know that like recently you said that, that it was that Angular has moved under a different group of Google LLC. How is changing that group had any impact on the team health? Like, does Angular being under this new Google LLC give it a better position to thrive forward as opposed to the previous group that it was under?
Absolutely. I would say this is the way I would term it. Prior to the organization that Angular is a part of now, we were actually sitting in the ads organization. And if you can imagine, there wasn't a lot of similarity in the goals between the ads organization and what Angular represented. Now we're part of a group called Core Developer. Core Developer's whole mission is to make the development experience for engineers better. We are part of a group called Core Developer Web. And everybody in this team is devoted to caring about web development and pushing web development forward. This team's very wide. And as an example, some of these teams have spun off from work the Angular team did. As an example, some of you may remember Martin and Rado, who were part of our TypeScript team. They're still very much working on TypeScript, but they're now off and have rolled their own team so that they have more, they have a larger team now doing larger projects and have greater scale within Google. We still work very closely with them as part of Core Dev Web. And then I lead under our director, Core Dev Web Frameworks, so that the entirety of the people who report directly into me are all working on web frameworks in one capacity or another. So we have a lot more people dedicated to focusing on the web, a lot more brain power. Just because they're not working on Angular doesn't mean we're not out there talking to them about how they see templating languages or how they see productization of Angular apps, either internally or externally, how we work on testing, end-to-end testing, what's our story, how do other people at Google think about that? So we have a lot more people to collaborate with, as well as a lot more support in the org for the things that we want to do, because this org cares about web development.
Okay, yeah, again, it's interesting that you say that is more general than just Angular, you would say, as far as like the web development part of it?
Yeah, well, Angular, so in our org, we have 2 web frameworks. One is Angular, and then the other is an internal only framework that is mostly used by our large powerhouse consumer apps, right? So yes, it's the Core Dev Web has concerns that are greater than web frameworks. I'm in charge of web frameworks. And then there's a whole bunch of other teams. There's build and serve, there's testing, there's TypeScript languages team. So yeah, there's a more broad concern across Core Dev Web with regard to web development. But we very much have a very large team working on web framework related tech.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. And just another question on like team health, like, and then I said, this is things that have been going around, and I have to at least ask the question and you can answer it either way. But the health of the Angular team, like specifically, I'm just going to say it. Some people will say that the environment has been toxic, or that things haven't been the greatest with the environment, just because it may be high stress. I mean, I don't know. But I do know that you said that, or there's been said that the environment is getting better, or is better than what it was a few years ago. So are there any things like specifically you can point to that talk about the team health, or so that people on the outside don't see that as like a negative thing with the Angular team?
So I can't comment on what was happening before. I'm the leader. I don't even know I was off doing something else. And so I actually didn't pay much attention to Angular itself during that period of time. So I can't speak to whatever happened before my leadership here.
Right.
But I joined the team. I started observing. I started paying attention. And all of the things you're seeing me now start to implement and execute are in response to what I viewed as the challenges the team was facing. So the things that I described to you earlier about aligning engineering management, about creating scalable processes for the team to be more successful, and building new collaboration models so that the team feels vested in the decisions that we're making as a whole. Those are all the things I'm doing to work on team health. As an example, one of the memes I heard is that there's like 1 or 2 people who make all the decisions for Angular. That's not true. We actually bring a number of people together and discuss every line item in our project list and decide where its priority exists in the stream of work we have. So it's things like that I'm trying to improve how we work together as a team.
Yep. So, okay. So that's just been a part of the process after, like you said, after you came back to make sure that those types of things weren't happening, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And I am confident in the state of our team today. I'm confident that everyone on the team feels happy. I check in frequently.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I said, I have to ask the question just because it's out there, and I want to at least give you all an opportunity to openly answer it. And like I said, not talking about people specifically, because like you said, you weren't there. But I guess those things will have long lasting impact. And I guess we'll see more fruit of those things like in the future. As you said, you're still carving those out and making sure that those things are there. So I guess we'll have to see it. Like I said, I'm glad that the team is doing something positive about that, or identifying that it could be better. So,
I'm of the belief that there's no perfect team.
Yeah.
All teams have room to grow. And as you add new team members, as your scale changes, your scope changes, right? There's always room for growth. So I don't view this as like a destination. It's team health is a journey that we all have to work on together.
Yeah, I agree. So as far as the team structure now, I guess it was, I don't know if this was said publicly or not, that Kara was on Kara has moved on from the Angular team, but she was the tech lead. Can you answer about who's the tech lead now over the Angular team, or?
I guess the way I would word it is we don't necessarily have replaced any direct tech lead. Jeremy has definitely been taking up more responsibility and helping us align the framework to the rest of the work that we do. As part of the new model that we're instituting now, which again is, pretty much brand new in the last couple of months, maybe it's been about 3 months we've been working on it. We are actively looking at whether the structure that has existed in the past is the right structure to go forward. And I don't have that answer for you today. I think that's something that we will determine as we begin to execute this new model and really get into it, right? And this is my philosophy: is you don't make all those decisions up front. You start small, start walking. As I'm telling the team every day, like, we're going to crawl, walk, run, right? And we're crawling right now. We're definitely just figuring out how to get on our feet.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I like Jeremy. I'm just going to throw that out there. I've talked to him at NGConf, and we had some interesting conversations. So
we have a lot of amazing people on the team that I'm not sure are as visible as the older people on the team have, right? And like, we've recently added some new team members, and so there's a lot of people in the background that we're working towards bringing into structure, and that isn't 100% clear to me yet.
Okay.
Yeah, we have several people on the team that explicitly don't want to go out and be on podcasts and give conference talks. And we want to make sure that that's okay.
I imagine it's less stressful from a public, being in the public eye perspective, to take that approach. So I'm definitely on board with that if people want to choose that.
Yeah, it's funny because all these things are mixed, right? Like Twitter and social media, they can definitely lift you up. When something is great, it lifts you up, and it shows you that there's people that are with you, and you've got a community, and you've got people all around you that are like wanting good things for you. It also brings out the worst in us sometimes.
And it's also like personal, right? Like, if I wasn't in the role that I'm in, I wouldn't be on social media because I'm a deep introvert and painfully shy, right? But you don't, like, at some point in my career, I had to make the choice to be more prominent, and it's a task that I have to actually like try every day. Because it's not normal or natural for me, and it isn't normal and natural for others. And if you're not in a role in which you need to be, like, I'm not going to force anyone on the team to be public. Yeah,
I am an introvert myself, and I am quick to tell people that probably me doing this, doing Angular Unfiltered is my way of being extroverted at some level. So,
yeah, we often joke about how, like, so much of the Angular DevRel team has historically been introverted, where it's like we love the technology, we love the community, but being in a room talking to 50 people is exhausting.
Yes, it is. I would definitely concur with that. So, like, good to know, like I said, good to know about that. We introverts have to stick together. Definitely stick together from a distance, I would say.
Yeah, and I mean, and I think that the one really good thing to call out about social media is when it does allow people to speak their truth, right? Like, and that we have to appreciate and value, because we all come from different contexts. We all have different experiences, and having an avenue to express those is really important. And that's one of the things that, like, a lot of the conversations have been around is, like, are there avenues for people to share and get support? And I think that that's always really important.
Yeah, I agree. Going Oh, and I see some people in the chat room saying the introverts are coming full force now, and I'm definitely for it.
I've always been asked, like, so I led DevRel. I've been in DevRel for a long time, and I was doing DevRel between Angular stints as well. And people are always, how can you be an introvert and be in DevRel? And I'm like, that's why I've mastered the art of the exit after the keynote. Right?
Yes.
Give it and leave.
Exit stage left.
Oftentimes when you're on stage, everyone else disappears. It's just you, right? Like you're not giving a talk to an audience. You're just giving a talk.
Yeah.
You know what I've always gotten through as an introvert is that the first row is always friends, right? They're always like the biggest fans. So you just focus on that first row.
They're the ones giving you the hard thumbs up there when you're up there. Yep. Yeah. So like on the technology, on the tech side of things, Angular, like I said, one of the other big things is where the like the features of Angular, like we talk about Ivy has. Here it's out in the open. I guess it's a two-part question. Like, what's the status of, is Ivy fully rolled out, like internally? And so where are we at, like going forward? You talked about the roadmap before. Where are we at going forward with the roadmap for Angular? I know you said, I've listened before that you said there's something coming soon, but just for a recap, some of those items on the roadmap.
I'll let Stephen answer more, but I'll just say that part of implementing this new project and prioritization model, right, was for us to be able to be more transparent with the community about what projects are in that prioritization list and you know, sort of the stacking of where we think we're going to go. We are close. I'd like the team to be confident in that set of projects before we move and actually be transparent. And when we do that, I'd like to be clear that like nothing is ever written in stone. We revisit that prioritization every week now. And if new things come in and we have to reprioritize, we absolutely will.
And that just more specifically, you're just talking about prioritization of the roadmap that's going to.
So the roadmap will be basically our prioritization list, right? Like here's the 10 projects and here's the way in which we think we're going to tackle them, or here's the 10 projects we're working on in this period of time. I think we're still working on the format of how we put this together because we're still finalizing the prioritization as well. So you can see how they go together, and as soon as one's done, we'll be able to do the other one. And yeah, I think we're pretty close. Okay.
Can you share some of the items on the list?
Sure. So there's a couple that we've talked about in the past, but one is we have this project where we're trying to significantly increase the investment that we're making into our GitHub issues and PRs. So we did a fix it a few weeks ago, and then actually maybe over a month ago now at this point, but now we've institutionalized that as kind of an ongoing commitment from the team. So if you are sending issues and PRs to us, thank you, and we're going to be looking for patterns and looking for trends there. So the first stage of that is really focused on triage, where, like, for example, our tooling team, they have found a bunch of cases where by going back and doing this kind of meta-analysis of the issues and the PRs, that we're actually able to close a bunch of them at the same time, where we're saying, hey, let's make one fix that actually does it right and then solves a bunch of people's issues.
Okay. So like I said, there are things, I guess, within Angular that have been mentioned about things being updated, like type forms. I'm guessing that's one of the things on the list, and of course the next version of TypeScript. But you're saying that list is still the prioritization list / roadmap is still being formulated, and that will come out later, right?
Yeah, I mean, we pay a lot of attention to the ecosystem. So Angular is committed to being an up-to-date part of the kind of JavaScript world. And so there's a lot of obvious things that we're talking about, like TypeScript, Webpack updates, even harder challenges like the TSLint to ESLint. Like we're very well aware of these things and trying to put together plans that are meaningful. Like we think that we have to keep the entire ecosystem moving forward. And so asking everyone to rewrite their code all the time is not going to work. And so we're trying to balance between these ideas of having the most up-to-date platform and keeping everyone with us as we move forward together.
Yeah, not unless you're going to rewrite it for them. That's because people have gotten used to the migrations and everything, just kind of doing that stuff for them, right?
Yeah, I mean, and like whenever we can, that is definitely the strategy. But there's places where that is not possible. Like for example, if we ever wanted to update our testing strategy so that we like take advantage of new capabilities on the web, take advantage of new strategies, like that, those are going to be harder challenges. And so we want to do it in a way that feels good to the ecosystem. And so like getting those strategies right is really important to us, because if we just, and I'm just making this up, but if we just came out and said, everyone switch to JavaScript testing framework X, here, we don't give you any guidance or any help or any like path, that would suck, right? Whereas if we say, hey, here is how we see testing, here's our team's philosophy and opinion on it, and here's how we see testing has evolved over the last few years, and here's how we're responding to it.
Okay, so taking more of an approach of what the team's stance is on a particular topic, and you can choose the tool of your choice to implement that. Because I know, like in the Angular ecosystem, Angular, Protractor, and Kremer are still like the baselines for Angular projects.
Yeah, I mean, those are the default that you get out of the CLI right now. But I mean, one of the things I love about the Angular ecosystem is that, for example, if you wanted to use Cypress today, you can do that, right? Like there is an ng-add command that you can run that just adds and installs Cypress. So like, I love that, because that is so important, especially as we're trying to figure out the strategy of like, where do we lead the ecosystem? Being able to rely on the community to tell us what they want, that is going to set us up for success.
Yeah, definitely. I know, like I said, Cypress and other test runners out there are definitely gaining more ground in the Angular ecosystem, and at least providing guidance, or, I think that the framework is flexible enough to, like I said, let other people choose other tools without being encumbered, I believe is the right word.
Yeah, and I mean, like that's a really interesting one that I would love to. I don't want to take. Oh, actually, we're already over time, but we could talk for hours about this, because I like the Angular team. Should we ship tests when you type ng new? Should we ship tests? If we do ship tests, then we have to pick which framework we support. If we support multiple frameworks, then every project's going to look different in how the tests are written. All of these things come with trade-offs, and so we have historically been very successful, and our developers have loved Angular because of our opinionation. And so we're trying to figure out where and when should we be opinionated, where and when do we need to be flexible, when should we support multiple options, and all these are really nuanced challenges. And so we're trying to stay true to what developers are hoping from us.
Yeah. And I know, like I said, I know we're running a little on time, so I'll guess maybe one more question, and then we can talk about how people can contribute or help in the process of Angular going forward. And I'm going to just say this up front: it's a difficult topic, but what is the status of diversity on the Angular development team? You talked about the managerial team, having women in development there. That you mentioned before that there are new people on the DevRel team. What things are being done as far as helping to increase the diversity on the development team itself? Because I know that, like I said, Angular wants to be very inviting to people across multiple cultures and everything. So if you can speak to that.
Well, so we have. Okay, how can I say this? So since I've been on the team, when I've added new people, the majority of people that we have added to the team since I've been here have not been engineers. I believe that a product the size of Angular actually needs more support than just people who write the code behind it. And that includes, we've added a product manager to help me and the team understand the space, understand our users. We've added a new program manager in Cindy, who is helping us with internal communications between the team as well as communications across Google. She's also the mastermind or the person who runs the Fix It program for all of our organizations. So she's helping align us to those kinds of things to make it better. Obviously, the engineering manager I hired also is a woman. Brian hired me. I'm a woman. And the last hire we've made on the Angular team is also a woman. So I've done as much focus on diversity as I have, but my focus was not to hire new engineers on the team. And I understand we could and should add more engineers, but my view and strategy is that we need a lot more rounded team than just the people who are engineers on the development side.
Right. And I want to jump in here too and say, Google and the Angular team, we really, 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 really strongly believe in hiring the best person for the job. So we were called out on stage at NGConf for the lack of diversity in our team in the past. But at the same time, we want to make sure we're always hiring the right people for the jobs, that everyone on the team deserves to be there. And so the main area where we can make improvements and do better is trying to make sure that we have a pipeline of candidates that is great. So I think that is something we've done. Some of our hiring is even, I think I heard this, I don't know how true this is, but if you take a month longer to hire, you get like dramatically, it results in dramatically more diverse teams, even when you hire the best person. Which is just a really interesting statistic that I'd never heard before, where if you hire the first qualified candidate to come along, that you often end up skewing away from underrepresented groups. And so like even just the hiring strategies or the pipeline strategies you have driving better outcomes, I think is really interesting concept.
Yeah, you can be like a late bloomer like me, a late bloomer like me who didn't necessarily go down the more traditional path, I would say. Yeah, like I said, I know it's a difficult question. I wanted to give you an opportunity to answer, and thank you for working towards that goal on the working towards that as a continual thing on the team and the development team and the managerial team, which I think is already underway there. Yeah. So with that, I think we'll wrap up there, but how Angular is all about contributions, open source. How can the community reach out to the Angular team so they can get involved in the future of Angular?
Stephen, I'll let Stephen talk about the community programs that we're.
Sure. Yeah. So we have a whole bunch of things that we're trying to do around how do we pull people into giving us feedback on what things we're working on, like this roadmap that we've alluded to a bunch of times, even down to the extent of like, can we get commentary on some of these things and actually like solicit feedback from the world? So the thing I would say is share with us. We are not generally a super shy team, as like we do meetups across the world. Like I think we generally have 2 or 3 meetups a week. So we're very, very active. We try to be present. But if you're having a good experience, tell us. If you're having a bad experience, tell us. Both of those things are super valuable to the team. We love to understand the community better.
Okay, so I guess the best place with that would be GitHub or.
Issues are a great way to let us know about more of the technical side of Angular. Like if you have a feature request, if you have bugs, things like that. But then, I mean, in general, we're relatively open. Like I've done this a couple times, but like you can email me, like StephenFluent@google.com. Like, talk to us. Okay.
Yeah, like I said, I know that y'all are very invested in the community, and I just want to let the people know that there's an opportunity there to them to get involved and get more contact with the team. I'll say thank you.
If you could become a contributor, like that is like there is more scope than we can ever handle. Building great web developer experiences. And so anytime, like if you can go out and build a cool library like NGRX, like you are helping the community and you're helping the world.
So you're saying we need more. You're saying we need more libraries like NGRX that can contribute to the Angular ecosystem. That's what That's what I heard. I don't know if that's what you said.
I think we've got enough state management for the moment.
No more state management unless it's coming from the team. So I'm gonna stand on that one. Yeah, but yeah, like I said, thank you, Jules. Thank you, Stephen, for coming on. I think it was a productive conversation, and like I said, I'm looking forward to seeing how the conversation continues, even here or on GitHub or in the community itself. So thank you very much for coming on. Like I said, you can reach out to them through various channels. And I think that is it for today, and we'll see you next week. Bye.
Thanks.
Thanks for having us.